Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Final Tackle podcast, and we are joined by, honestly, a legend of the game. His name is Darius Boyd. Thank you very much for joining us. This episode is brought to you by our proud sponsor, Gold Coast Trading Cards. They are an authorized TLA trading card dealer, and they are the NRL collector's choice. From box breaks to individual cards, they sell thousands of them. Be sure to get all of your NRL trading card needs at Gold Coast Trading Cards.
All right, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, honestly, it's an absolute honour. So we'll get started with your grassroots, and I'm talking grassroots in the 90s. You actually were the halftime footy game in a Gold Coast Seagulls footy match. What was that like?
Yeah, it was one of my first ever memories of rugby league. It's probably what got me addicted to the game a little bit and the love for the game. I just remember the Gold Coast not having a lot of teams around. They only had a competition growing up, so to be able to play at half time, one of those, it was the Seagulls game. Yeah, it was something pretty special. I've always remembered it.
Wow. I found that out, and I was like, wow. It's amazing to hear that. Now, growing up on the Gold Coast, as you said, they didn't really have, unfortunately, much of a team because they had the Giants and they had the Seagulls, then they had the was it Crushers, Gold Coast Crushers? No, that was South Queensland Crushers, Gold Coast Chargers. Sorry. So a bit of a tumultuous time. What team did you follow growing up?
Yeah, I was always a Broncos supporter. I think just because of that, the Gold Coast in and out a lot. The Broncos were, in the early 90s, the team to beat. Won a couple of comps. Yeah, so I think that's, all the kids, even these days, they seem to be Melbourne Storm fans because they're quite successful. So, and Brisbane was just up the highway for me. And, so I was a Broncos fan. And Wendell Sailor was my favourite player. And I told him that because I got lucky enough to play with him.
When you were at the Dragons?
My last year at the his last year at the Dragons. Yeah, my first year there. So that was pretty special, but I remember going up the highway and watching the old QE2 before they moved to Suncorp, watching their games and screaming at the telly when they lost, and had all the memorabilia and the jerseys and the cards and everything. So I was a big Broncos fan.
Nah, that's awesome. And speaking of the Broncos and your earliest memories, what would be your earliest memory of going to your first, or the first time you remember going to a Broncos live game?
That's a hard question. Well, I just remember going up to QE2 a lot. I don't know if it's my first game, but I remember sitting on those silver bench seats they used to have at QE2, the long ones. It wasn't actually individual seats, but go up with my mum and catch a train up and back. And I don't remember going home disappointed because the Broncos usually won most of the games. So,
Yep.
But I don't know if it was my first memory, but it was definitely a memory I've always remembered.
Nah, for sure. Now, talking about your time with the Broncos, you got a scholarship, but you decided to repeat grade 12 to go maybe get a potential in the NRL. What was it like, in that part of your life, before attaining, the scholarship or contract with the Broncos, deciding to, stay back, do one more year to, get those hopes and get that dream going?
Yeah, I just remember rugby league was my goal and passion, and it's kind of the be all end all for me. I just love rugby league so much. I wanted it so badly, but for me, I wasn't the greatest kid growing up coming through. I made my local rep teams, but never made the Queensland side. There's kids at 14, 15 getting scholarships to Dragons and Bulldogs and all that type of stuff. So. I used to wonder, I used to always say this, I used to think, I wonder in 5 years' time, I'll look back and think, what was I worried about? You made it, you were good enough, or that's why you were worried, because you just weren't good enough. I thought, repeating year 12, which was something that a couple of guys did at rugby league sport excellence schools at the time, which I went to Palm Beach Crum on the Gold Coast, and a couple of the guys did that.
Did any of them have as big of a career as you did in that grade when you guys repeated year 12 together?
I wasn't so much anyone that repeated in my year. There's a couple of guys, but there's probably been done a couple of years before me.
Okay, yep.
Different guys. But Ben Hannett went to Palm Beach Crum, and Ben Eichen went there. Sam Perrick, Kevin Proctor. Yeah, there's quite a fair list. There's been a lot more since I've left the school. There's a lot more now that the Gold Coast has come in. I think it's given a better pathway for young kids these days. It was something that was the best thing for me. I just needed another 12 months to develop and grown in my body. And I was probably a pretty quiet, shy, tentative, but also a bit scared. Lack of a better word, very scared in different ways. So I probably just need to grow into my body and be a bit more stronger and more comfortable. And that's what the best thing I did was repeat year 12. I made Queensland Australian Schoolboys. The Broncos gave me a scholarship, which ended up turning into a 1-year contract to move up there, and moved up the following year straight after my second year of year 12.
Yeah, wow. And what was that like? Moving up, did you move into like Broncos teammates' share house, or did you move up into your own place?
Yeah, it was. I had a Broncos house at the time, so there was 4 or 5 guys living with a family in the house. So I moved into that house. It was pretty daunting, to be honest. For me, sort of a quite shy kid. I didn't have a lot of family around. I was living with my grandmother on the Gold Coast at the time. And I found out the Gold Coast Titans were coming in 2007. I finished my second year 12 in 2005, so I was moving up to the 2006 season. So the end of the 2005 season, I was meant to move up, and I kind of had a couple of thoughts
about maybe going to the Titans.
I was just staying at the Gold Coast for 12 months, playing Queensland Cup for Burleigh, which I'd played one game there before, and then maybe waiting for the Titans to come in. Not that I loved the Titans, or it was just fear of moving away from home, your friends, and what you don't know. And like I said, as a young kid, I was pretty shy, reserved. Didn't know a lot about the world and how it works. Pretty naive to life. But yeah, I obviously didn't make that decision. I never would have. I think it just crosses your mind when you have a tough decision or a thing coming up that's a bit challenging. But yeah, the best thing I ever did was move out of my comfort zone, albeit only an hour up the highway. To change my game of playing for the Broncos.
Oh, absolutely. And that dream became reality in 2006, and even more so of a dream, you won the grand final with the Broncos in your debut season. What was that whole season like for you?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. I was lucky enough to play with some amazing players, Darren Lockyer, Petro, Webke, Sean Berrigan, the list goes on, Tony Carroll, Brad Thorne, there's so many. And then the younger ones now, Hodges and Friday, Parker, Carmichael, Hunt, those guys have gone on to have amazing careers themselves. Only a couple of years into their careers at the time. But yeah, I was watching these guys on TV, and a couple of months later I'm in the dressing sheds and
with them.
Going to hotels, flying on planes and playing rugby league together. So it's just such a whirlwind. It just happened so fast. It's quite hard to explain, really. It's 1 minute you just trying to realize a dream, the next minute it's there and it's happening, and then you start changing your goals and trying to set higher ones, and but it just happened so fast. And then to win the comp the first year, very lucky, very grateful to Wayne for giving me the opportunity to even just play first grade, let alone to pick me in the grand final team as well. We had a lot of guys that he could have picked. We had a pretty strong outside back group. The guys that didn't play in that final, Leon Bott, who had a cracking year the year before.
Oh, he did.
Scott Minto, Craig Frawley, Tame Tupu, who played for New Zealand that season.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Michaels, another guy that was playing some really good footy, who's my age, and went to school together. So there's some great guys that he could have picked ahead of me, but he gave me the opportunity, which I've always been grateful for.
No, absolutely. As you just mentioned, some absolute superstars right there, including yourself as well. Obviously, won't dwindle too much on your formative years with the Broncos, except you did make your Australia debut and your Queensland debut while you were at the Broncos. What was it like getting the call up for Origin and for Australia?
Yeah, again, those two things kind of come out of the blue a little bit. I suppose I'd been playing decent football, I thought anyway, but didn't think I was on the radar for those teams. The Queensland opportunity come about. Justin Hodges got suspended, and I got the call up. They pushed Brent Tate into the centres and put me on the wing. And I suppose the Australian team, a bit similar. The World Cup squad was announced. I wasn't in it. Wasn't expecting to be in it either. And then Brett Stewart, Justin Hodges as well again pulled out. Myself and Carmichael Hunt got called in. So yeah, it was just that was a great 12 months as well. Obviously playing for your state and country, and then once you obviously do that, and you realise how amazing it is to be in those squads and those teams and have those jerseys and represent it. But the next challenge is to never let those jerseys go, and always want to be there year in, year out.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And during your time with Australia and Queensland, It's all good. Take your time if you need to say something. During your time with Australia, obviously the '08 World Cup is not really it's a bit of a sour point for every Australian. But the 2013 World Cup, you played for Australia and you won the World Cup. What was that like compared to winning a grand final?
Yeah, it's different. The grand finals are the hardest to win, in my opinion, just because you spend 10, 11 months of the year with the team, and to get there and go through injuries and all different things you go through, origin period and whatnot through the season, and to be the best and win it is in my opinion, the hardest thing to do in rugby league. But to win, Origin series or Grand World Cups or any of those things, yeah, I was lucky to be in a good team. But yeah, I mean, like the World Cup, you still have to go. We went over the 13 World Cup. We were over in England for about 8 weeks, away from family and friends. And but again, we had a quality team there, and I think we won the final by 34-2 against New Zealand. So we put a real good performance in the whole campaign. I think we had a really good defensive record, and to go overseas and go to spend time in different countries, but playing the game that you love. And being paid to do it, making friends along the way. It's not much of a better thing to do in the world, really.
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, obviously it's a dream for everyone who loves rugby league and or sport to represent your country, and then win a World Cup is that. But was your dream always to win a grand final? Obviously, your dream was to play rugby league, but was your dream also to win a grand final, or was it to win a World Cup or win a State of Origin series? Because you managed to do all of them.
Oh, if I'm being honest, I didn't dream that far. I think when I was a kid, my dream was literally to play one game for the Broncos. I just wanted to be, I wanted to get the jersey. I wanted to, get the training gear. I wanted to experience flying away with the team and staying in hotels and getting meals and all these things that I've heard about, and so I just wanted to experience that. Yeah, basically, like I said, but that's when your goals really change. I suppose once you accomplish something, then. Once I played one game, then I wanted to be there regularly. I wanted to play every game. And then my first year, we won the grand final, so I was probably pretty spoilt and didn't really understand what we'd actually achieved and how hard it is to do that. So it took me a couple of years to get back there to do it again. So I think you just reassess your goals each time. Like I said, I never even thought about playing for Queensland or Australia. That was just never in my thinking. So
yeah.
And that's what happened, I guess, that you really realise, okay, well, if that can be the case, then how do I stay in this position? How do I keep this jersey? And how can I be the best version of myself? Or what,
No, that's fair enough.
Goals can I kick, I guess.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And obviously, pardon me. Speaking of you said it took a few years to get back there. It was at a different club. You jetted down to the Dragons for a few years, and you won a grand final with them, 2010, and even Clive Churchill, getting the Clive Churchill medal in the game. What was it like going down to the Dragons and playing for them?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I'm really glad I made that decision in the end. Wasn't a decision I wanted to make at the start. I was just, being a Broncos fan, I just thought once you're in the team, and you stay there as long as you want.
Yep.
So I learned early on, 3 years in, I was 21, that rugby league's a business and there's a salary cap, and loyalty is a funny word that people throw around, but at the end of the day, if you wanted, you can stay. If you're not, you're not. So.
Well, I mean, I believe you were always loyal. Sorry to interrupt. I believe you were always loyal to the Broncos, even though you went to the Dragons and the Knights. You did end up back at the Broncos and finished your career there. So I believe you were always loyal to the Broncos. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's says all the time, but you have a short span of athletic career. I was lucky; I had 15 years, and that's not always the case for a lot of people. And even 15 years is a short span. I got to start again, and find a new career path, and work for another 30 years. So. At the end of the day, it's not always about loyalty. Fans like to hear about loyalty, but at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for your family and your friends. And at the same time, clubs will kick you out as quick as possible too if they want to get rid of you. So
absolutely.
But yeah, for me, the Broncos said they don't want me anymore. I had a year at 2009 to go. They said, look, you can stay here for 2009, but we won't re-sign you after that. You've just played Origin for 2008, so you might as well go now while you're playing good football and you're injury free. So that was a bit of a shock. I think I was a bit upset. I'm pretty sure I told Wayne, and probably had a few tears in my eyes, and that's kind of how our relationship not started, but I suppose grew. He just said, "Look, come with me," and he was already signed to go to the Dragons, and like I said, it was the best thing for me. I was playing, centre wing fullback for the Broncos,
and
just to fix it.
like you said, you were playing good footy. You played for Queensland and Australia in '08.
Yeah, but Carmichael was the long-term fullback, and fullback was probably my best position. So I probably had to go to get to play fullback. Not that I made that choice, I know, from my own personal doings, but it just worked out that way. And I had some great times at the Dragons, and we were very successful down there.
Oh, absolutely, and obviously, as just mentioning again, the 2010 grand final. What was that like, going and playing in that, your second grand final in a matter of 4 years or 5 years technically, and also getting Clive?
Yeah, I was obviously older. I was playing fullback, so probably a lot more contribution to the team. Obviously, getting there and even just trying to win it on the day as well. So I felt like I really enjoyed that grand final victory more. I appreciated it more and understood the challenges you face in the season, how hard it is to get there, and all the differences. So it was great. And I mean, the Dragons fans are amazing. The rivalry they had with different clubs in Sydney was awesome as well. And even just the 31 years it was before, between premierships for them. Yeah. So even just understanding that, I've still have, it's been, what's it now, 11 years later, and I've still have people come up to me, even in Brisbane, just saying, thanks for what you did at the Dragons. So it's, it's pretty amazing to see when a team has that long of a drought, what it means to some fans, and to be pat on the back, 10, 11 years later is pretty special.
Oh, absolutely. And then obviously you went over to the Knights again with Wayne. What was that like, going up to Newcastle with Wayne and the Knights and playing for them?
Yeah, that was great as well. It was another really good experience. Obviously on the field wasn't as successful as anyone would have hoped, but I have really fond memories of Newcastle for a few reasons. Obviously a great city, great town, some great people there as well. We had one really good year in 2013, made the prelim final, and the Roosters were too good. But also for me personally, I think off the field is what I really learned a lot about myself. I had to make some challenges and I had to make some changes. And it was just something that I needed to do for myself personally, and to have a bit of adversity through rugby league was kind of the red flag, light bulb moment that I needed to really put my hand up and get some help with my mental health and my well-being, which is like I said, wasn't ideal rugby league wise, but I wouldn't be where I am today. And in a really good headspace without making those changes and changing that bit of adversity and things I'd gone through my time at Newcastle. That's grateful for that experience as well.
No, that's fair enough. I was actually going to bring that up, but you brought it up yourself. So I'm going to ask, obviously, at the moment you've started up the Iron team. Is that something that you have thought of, obviously, during your career about starting due to mental health and stuff?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of work ever since I left the mental health clinic I went to in 2014. Mm-hmm. I know the change in me was, and what I've been able to experience has been amazing. My mum experienced some mental health issues when I was young and still does. So, it's been something that's been around close to me for quite a number of years. And I love getting out in the community and helping out and giving back. It's one of my parts of my mental health care plan, I guess. And it's great to have a greater cause in yourself and give back and help others. So I've been doing it for a fair while. I was doing a bit of a rebrand, I guess. It's called Battling the Blues for a little while there.
That's a great name.
Doing a lot of those. Yeah, doing a bit of that as far as Battling the Blues. Obviously, play on words with the footy, but more so about your mental health and just, no one's alone and the things you go through. And we all have challenging moments and times, but there's some great, lifestyle strategies first and foremost that you can look at to help with your mental health, and then there's a lot of education and a lot of other things you can do as well, and resources to get to help with your mental health and well-being. But Iron Team's kind of a bit of a rebrand, really. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of it for a long period of time, but the Iron Team, I just thought it sounded a little bit better as far as it's about being the best version of yourself, the individual.
Gotcha.
And you're in a team, if it's your husband and wife team, if it's your brother team, if it's your work team, business team, whatever team you're in, to be successful, you need to be the best version of yourself. And it starts with your own mental health and well-being, and making sure you're focusing on that and being proactive with it, so that when any challenge, change, or crisis comes around in life, which it will happen, it doesn't knock you off the edge, and you get some great tools and strategies to bounce back really, really quickly.
Oh, absolutely. And to anyone when this goes up, if you're interested in or need help or whatever with mental health wise, I'll be linking the Iron Team and wherever they can all find that in the description of this episode. So thank you very much for talking about that. You then moved back up to the Broncos after your time with the Knights. Obviously, what ended up becoming the last team that you played with was the Broncos. What was it like moving back up to Brizzy?
Yeah, it was great. It was something that I never thought possible when I left. I thought if I want to get back to Queensland, I have to go to the Titans. I just never thought the opportunity to come back to Brisbane. So I was very pleased. Again, Wayne to thank for that. Wayne going back to Brisbane and said, if you want to come, mate, I'm happy to bring you. So I didn't need any more words from Wayne than that.
Well, he's definitely a man of few words, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think, for me, always the reason I did follow Wayne for a couple of different teams. Not only I thought I could be a better rugby league player, but more importantly, I thought I could be a better person under Wayne. He's done a lot for me on and off the field. Probably didn't use him enough in those early years, but he's a special human being, Wayne Bennett.
Absolutely. Sorry to interrupt real quick. I had the pleasure of actually watching him at a seminar a few weeks ago of Empower with Wisebury in Hornsby, and it was about a half an hour, 45-minute speech from him, and First of all, I've never heard him speak so much before in my life, given him Mr. Media, but it gave me an absolutely different insight as to the person he is, and I can understand why yourself and other players, may follow him to other clubs, because it's an aura that he's got and the way he is. Absolutely agreed. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, he's just great man manager, and he just cares. That's the most important thing. And
Absolutely, he does. Yeah.
Young boys and kids that come into rugby league, leave as great young men. I think that says enough about him as a person. That rugby league's the byproduct, but at the end of the day, it's about turning young boys into good young men when they leave, and with some good tools and a hard good work ethic and good values and beliefs. That when they do leave rugby league, they leave better people, and they can have families and have great careers afterwards as well. So he's a special guy, and very grateful for him to get me back to Brisbane. Back to your question, never thought possible, but to go back to Brisbane, and once I come back, I knew I was never going to leave the second time, and I wanted to retire here, finish here. It's only up the highway from where I was born, and my family, my wife's family down the coast. So it was pretty special to be able to come back to Brisbane.
Yeah, nice. And speaking of retiring, obviously you are a recently retired player. You retired at the end of last year. Could you tell us about the moment, or the thought process of when you realised it was time to retire, and or how you realised it was time to retire?
Yeah, it was just a question that my manager asked me, really, and just said, what do you have to achieve by playing next year, which would be this year, because I still had another year to go.
One more year.
Yeah. And that was a really good question, because obviously the Broncos were struggling at the time, a couple of different coaches, and going through COVID and that as well. I'd been changed position, removed from the captaincy as well. So obviously, my thought process, I suppose the coach at the time didn't have plans for me in the team. So that's is what it is. So I just thought,
I guess.
Yeah, I guess coaches have different styles of players that they like, and different styles they want to play the game as well. So for me, all the things I've been able to achieve in my career, I'm, like I said, I go back to the mental health tips and strategies now, and one thing I talk about is being grateful and having gratitude. And for me, I made the decision to retire for making last year my last season. I played over 300 games and
which is amazing.
More than I ever thought possible. So to play an extra 20 games, or what it was going to be the following season, what was I going to gain out of that? Apart from doing what I love. The spotlight was on me. Unfortunately, this is the way it is. If we lose a game, it's probably my fault.
Some people would say that.
Well, this year it's MILF's fault. So highest profile, And if you're highly paid, then that's just the way the media look at it, unfortunately.
Exactly.
And
Unfortunately, yeah.
it sells, but at the end of the day, it's not realistic. But that's just reality. So
Well, I mean,
for me, play an extra 20 games from
when you'd achieved everything
unfortunately
that you
weren't going to
can
win,
in the game
weren't
already.
going to win the premiership.
Yep.
It's a rebuilding phase for the club. You know, a lot of young guys, and I really enjoyed mentoring them. And I'm still around now, so I try to help out where I can. But I think it was just the right decision, the right time. In a different situation, I'd probably still be playing. But in saying that, I was watching Origin last night, and I've watched games this year, and I generally don't miss football, which I think that shows you that I've made the right decision.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, and I think it also comes down to similar to Brett Morris, his logic in the sense of he's just announced his retirement recently, and basically what he said was he personally believed he didn't have anything to prove afterwards. He's been there and won it all or done it all, and I think that's more or less the same for you. From what I see, you've won a grand final, you've done everything, you've played 300 plus more games than I've ever played, and it's an absolute testament to you and your career in the NRL. Now, switching to some fun sort of topics, who was the biggest pest at the teams that you played at, in the sense of whether it was pranks or just wouldn't be quiet when he was playing?
Josh Maguire was one. Bo Scott, the Dragons, more so the prank side. Mm-hmm. Jeremy Smith, the Dragons in Newcastle as well, was a bit of a character and prankster. Mm-hmm. Matt Gillette, a bit of a prankster as well. So there's a few going around. But yeah, they're all great for the group. Sam Thaiday, not a prankster, but just great for morale and team energy, and takes a piss out of himself a little bit, and just light-hearted even when you're going through maybe a loss or two or some media all over you. Just some guys in the group that can just poke fun of themselves and make it a bit light-hearted. Yeah, you need those guys around, and we had a couple of them over the years.
No, that's fair enough. Geez, so there was the pest. What's your current what's your favourite way to have a steak?
Usually out for dinner. My wife doesn't eat a lot of red meat, so no point cooking a steak for one. But so I usually save it to when I go out for lunch or dinners or whatever. Nice restaurant, nice eye fillet steak. Usually medium with some mushroom sauce. Yeah,
nice. What's your current beer of choice if you drink?
Well, it doesn't really count as beer, but I'm loving the ginger beers at the moment, the Brookvale Unions.
Yeah,
not a massive beer guy. Yeah, but those Brookvale Union ginger beers.
Ginger beers are good.
They're quite light. I think they're 4%, so they're not too strong. But I'm not a big drinker. I've never been a massive fan of beer, but those Brookvale Union ginger beers are real nice.
Yeah, nice. Obviously, Ben Ikin is now head of football at the Broncos recently. What are your thoughts on that, and how is he going with the club so far, even though it's only been about a week and a bit? But it's more, obviously, because you said you're still there-ish, have you seen, sort of plans that he's putting into place?
Yeah, I think it's too hard to tell now, but I think he's going to be great for the club. Club just needs some really good people in the organisation. Not to say there's not, but I know Benny Ikin is one of them. He was our welfare officer when I started in 2006, so he helped me buy my first car. So we go back a little way, and he actually went to Palm Beach, Crumlin, where I'm from as well. So and I've kept in contact with Ike over the years, and he has the best interests, I think, at the club at heart, and some of the players as well. I know he's been doing a bit of ringing around to some of the players behind the scenes this year, which no one would know. I think he has a good footy brain and a good heart as well, which I think the Broncos will be really needing and leaning on as well.
No, absolutely. So we've covered the biggest pest. Who was the toughest opponent to play against?
It's probably a hard one, I guess. Obviously, people say those big four. I always say, Sam Burgess or Sonny Bill when he was playing. Paul Gallen, probably one of them. But for me personally, probably more so guys in the backs that I would mark up against. So I always usually say Greg Inglis, one of my favourite players, GI, and I'm not going to have to play with and against him for a long period of time.
Probably preferred with him.
yeah, definitely with him. But when he was on and when he was at his best, he could beat you with running. He could run over the top of you and he could run around you with speed too. So he was a special talent.
Nah, absolutely. I'm just seeing if there's anything left on the list, and I think there is. So who was your inspiration behind rugby league? Or what was, if there's not a who?
Well, there's probably a couple of things. I love the Broncos. Like I said, my favourite player was probably Wendell. I did love Darren Lockyer as well growing up. But my probably biggest inspiration, biggest drive, was just probably not having a lot of family support when I was a kid. So I probably lent on rugby league as a bit of that family network, coaches, teammates, friendships, mateship, something to enjoy, something to look forward to on weekends. It really gave me that drive to do something and be passionate about something. Yeah. And then the more I got into it and the older I got, I really enjoyed it. And I've always been a bit of a all or nothing type person, bit of a perfectionist. So I always just wanted to be my best and give it absolutely everything. So I've always had a good work ethic and never leave any stone unturned, and always tried my best because I knew that that would give me the best chance to be successful. So there's probably a couple of things, but that's probably my biggest couple of motivations or inspirations. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And we've got about 2 or 3 more topics. Here's another one. What advice would you give to any youngsters who are wanting and hoping to make it in the NRL one day?
Just to work hard, I think, and then just have fun and enjoy it, because sometimes at the highest level it can get a bit too professional and too serious, and a lot of negative things can come with it. And this day and age is even worse with social media around. So
absolutely.
I feel sorry for the young sports people of today, but just to work hard and have fun, really. Remember why you start. You start playing because you're a little kid and you love your mates and you enjoy it. And to get to this level, the highest level, you need to keep having fun. You need to work hard, and you need to have really good people around you to give you good advice. I think that's probably the other key as well.
No, that's fair. And the social media one actually brings up a really good, quick topic of discussion. Is you started in the NRL when there was basically no social media. The most there was maybe MySpace, if that. And you've gone all the way through. It's seen the birth of social media and sports on social media. What was that like, and how did it affect you personally as, a human and as a player?
Yeah, not too much really, I suppose, just because, for me, I never really had social media. I had Facebook for a while, but I had a fake name.
Given you a high profile, of course you did.
Yeah, and I had probably 50 friends on there. So, but yeah, I never really, had any social media, and it was just not in my personality and not in my makeup. So it didn't affect me too much in that regard, but more so probably the criticism and scrutiny. But like I said, I've never had it really. So for me, even when I've been copying criticism or under pressure from media or social, I don't see it. I don't have it. So out of sight, out of mind is the best way to handle it, in my opinion. Great for your mental space. The hardest part, I guess, is your friends and family. Most of them have it, so they see it and read it, and
and then they would probably worry for you, maybe think you're not doing too well.
Yeah, so I think it's more you probably hear it secondhand and worry. I'm probably more worried about how my family and friends cope with it more than myself.
That makes sense. Yeah,
that's the hardest thing. But I think just in general for players these days, it's only going to get worse. I know a lot of the players in different stages of the Broncos turn it off or delete the app for a little bit just to take a break.
Yeah,
because some of the people that get on there, it blows my mind.
Absolutely.
A lot of people treat each other at this day and age. It's 2021, but unfortunately, that's just society, and everyone feels that social media is their chance to have an opinion. But
even though sometimes it's not warranted,
or you should never try to bring people down.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's probably a topic that could go on for an hour.
No, absolutely. And one more topic before the last one, and it's looking back on your career in the NRL. What is your personal biggest highlight?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Probably my debut, to be honest. That's what I wanted so badly, to play for the club and play for the Broncos. And I suppose the other thing is probably retiring in Brisbane. Captaining the Broncos would be up there as well. From a quiet, shy kid at the coast that went through some hurdles and challenges all throughout my childhood and even through rugby league. To be able to captain the Broncos for a few years, the club that I've followed since I was a little boy and watched on TV and at different stadiums over the years. That'd have to be a highlight as well.
Oh, absolutely. And again, last topic is, do you have any words for the Broncos fans and members and all that for this year?
Yeah, I think just to stay solid. I think there's been a lot of change over the last 18 months, 2 years, whether it's been coaching, whether it's been the roster. Been well documented that it's a young group, but at the same time, there's some really talented kids in that group. They just need time to grow together and work together. But yeah, a lot of change. Always, it's challenging, and the Broncos have been very, blessed with premierships and top four and success for so many years. So it's a little hurdle now, but if we can keep majority of these guys together, then I don't see it being very long before the Broncos are back up near the top.
Well, absolutely. And I just thought of one quick last one. Due to the Broncos, obviously, finals hopes not really in their grasp this year. Watching the season, as a non-player now, who do you think? Like, which team or 2 or 3 teams do you think we can definitely see make a big grand final push this year?
Yeah, it's probably the same ones we always say. Melbourne, obviously, up there, Penrith, and I think South, if they get it right and it's injury-free, they could do something as well. Yeah, Parramatta, probably pretty close on their day could, but I don't know about stringing 3 or 4 together against the top teams. I don't know about that, but there's probably... Roosters had too many injuries, unfortunately, for them. Otherwise, they would have been up there. So it's probably the first 3 and maybe Parramatta at a pinch.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, that about wraps it up. Again, thank you so much. I'll click stop recording real quick.